So this is a new AGI benchmark, which gives ChatGPT a 57%. But I would prefer if you explained it because it's pretty amazing. And Salim, this one's for you, buddy. Finally, we have a definition of what AGI is and how to measure it for the first time ever. This was a paper that was co-authored by Eric Schmidt as well. And it's a pretty powerful concept. Alex, would you take us through it?
Sure. So there's an enormous cottage industry of AI researchers trying to define what intelligence even is. I've been guilty of that in past years as well. My bias has always been to look for a universal, elegant definition of what intelligence is that isn't necessarily grounded in human behavior or human psychology. This paper, and as Peter, you mentioned, we know a number of the co-authors on this paper. The basic idea behind this paper is to do the exact opposite. Instead of trying to look for some human agnostic definition of intelligence so that we can build more of it, the idea is instead to look at human psychology. So there is a theory that's popular in human psychology. It's called the Cattell-Horn-Carroll, or CHC theory, that decomposes human intelligence into 10 different factors, like the ability to reason quantitatively or to do visual processing. So the idea behind this paper is to define a benchmark that's directly inspired by the CHC theory to decompose intelligence of frontier models into 10 different categories with various subtasks associated with each category. And the main upshot of benchmarking GPT-4 and GPT-5 Auto, critically not GPT-5 Pro, according to my reading of the paper. The main upshot is, surprise, intelligence is jagged. The frontier models are stronger at some skills, weaker at other skills. Whereas the archetypical human would perhaps have a more uniform distribution of their skills across these 10 categories. But I would add the important caveat, again, just based on my reading of the paper, they didn't actually benchmark the bleeding edge frontier models like GPT-5 Pro.
For those looking at this on YouTube, you'll see these 10 different categories. These are human-like skills, knowledge, reading and writing, math, reasoning, working memory, memory storage, memory retrieval, visual, auditory, speed. And they're benchmarking GPT-5 and GPT-4 against those. But it's a measurable benchmark, right? I mean, the other option is the pornography definition. We'll know AGI when we see it. Dave, what do you want to add on this?
I'd love to get Alex's take. So I assume a 10 on each axis on this radar chart is human. So you're trying to match the outer ring here, but it's
all humans. I mean, no human is going to match 10 on this. Maybe
a quote unquote well-educated adult.
Okay. Huh. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's going to be the difference between the best human and an average human is a rounding error in the grand scheme of AI. It's almost identical actually. But it's so asymmetrical, and I don't understand the memory and storage axis and the speed axis.
That one's surprising.
How can you say
right?
the best AI is miles behind humans in speed? I don't quite get that.
That was the part that struck me also. Speed seemed off.
So when you make a query, to do something, your AI goes off and thinks about it for a while before it comes back with an answer. That is speed. A human, if I ask a question, Alex will typically not go away for 5 minutes and think about it. He'll give me at least his version of an answer right off the bat. But memory, I found incredibly, perplexing because I thought these AIs have incredible memory. Alex, what's your take on speed and memory?
Yeah, based on my read, the memory storage axis corresponded, or the deficiencies thereof corresponded roughly to the fact that off-the-shelf vanilla language models and foundation models have a finite input context window. So if you ask them questions that reference older information, by default, unless there's some sort of compression or memory compactification or RAG type mechanism, they don't have the ability to remember things that you told them a long time ago. But again, I want to caveat this benchmark. I love benchmarks in general, as I mentioned previously on the pod, but these are off-the-shelf models without any agent bureaucracies on top of them, without prompt optimization, without even access to bleeding edge reasoning efforts. This is just, if you read the paper, it's just GPT-5 Auto. So I'm wary to put my finger on certain deficiencies as being in any way indicative or instructive of the limitations of AI.
meaning there are other models that would perform much better on these 10 parameters,
or light modifications of existing models that, as with RAG, retrieval augmented generation, make them superb at certain skills. So I think that where this is useful in my mind is just having yet another benchmark as a proxy. It's a start, an important start for measuring human capabilities against AI capabilities. But when I see 57%, we've talked in the past on the pod about in the style of Ray Kurzweil, the moment you've passed 10% or maybe even less, you're basically halfway there. Getting 57% on a general human psychological benchmark, that indicates to me that probably with a little bit of reinforcement learning, a little bit of bureaucracy, agents, frameworks, scaffolding, probably get to 90% today.
Amazing. Well, by the way, everybody, just some forward-looking news. Ray Kurzweil is going to be joining us on the pod next month. Talk about his predictions for 2026. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I have my standard responses to this, which is I think this is really great for approximating or getting to kind of the frontal cortex and neocortex activities, but it doesn't deal with emotional intelligence or spiritual intelligence or any of the other dimensions of intelligence that we typically attribute to human beings. So,
but I thought about you, Salim. I thought about you specifically on this one because it's going to be a measurable benchmark that we can at least point at. And we're going to discuss whether we're going to hit AGI according to OpenAI in late 26, 27, or 30,
But what I'm
32.
saying is I disagree with the premise because AGI for me would incorporate these other things.
Okay.
So if you're measuring pure IQ test type stuff, fine. This is a great benchmark and we can kind of
I wonder if we're going to have the first AI spiritual leader who proclaims a religion. And
I think that's very doable. I remember once spending time in the Himalayas with some of these gurus, right?
What?
And I sat with these gurus with the orange robes and the long beards, and I came out with the conclusion there's about 10 or 15 questions, like what is the meaning of life type of thing. If you have a pretty good answer for those 10 or 15 questions, you can become a guru. And that's kind of an LLM. That's a neural network. So
all right,
I don't think that's going to be hard. I think that's very doable.
By this time next year, there's going to be an AI-based religion that is going to scale at a hyper exponential. It's going to be amazing.